Hello, this is Yunmi Kim. I'm giving a tutorial on how to make an exoplanet that is Earth-like in Photoshop 2023. There is an action set for it. However, I thought I would give the tutorial so you know how to fiddle with the eventual results of the action set. There is a GIMP version of this tutorial, but it's separate from this video. Go look for it. The first thing I have done is created a new document, and for my purposes I make it 2560 by 1440 because this is the resolution of my screen, so I can make it into a wallpaper. I have named it Exoplanet, and the width is there, the height is there, the resolution is 300. It's in RGB color because I'm using a computer screen, and I am setting the background to black. This will become clear white later. So then after you have the settings in, hit create. And ta-da! The first thing that you want to do is double click the background layer. This will create the name layer 0. That is okay. So hit OK, and then create a new layer. Layer 1. Layer 1 you want to rename continents. Then you want to hit the D key. That's D as in David. And this will set your colors over to black in the foreground and white in the background. Then you hit Filter, Render, Clouds. Then you hit Filter, Render, Difference Clouds. This will create an image that looks roughly like this. Ta-da! Then you want the filters down in the Layers panel, and you'll hit Levels. This will create a new level 1. From the slider near the black slider, put in the number 42. You can choose a different number if you want more continents or a larger set of continents. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to use 42. Keep the white slider the same and the gray slider the same. Then go back to the layers panel and then go to brightness and contrast. Make sure to hit the little check mark that says use legacy. Bump the contrast to 100%. If you get something like I see on screen, you can always go back to levels and fiddle with the settings until you get something that you like. So for the purposes of this, I have slid over the white, and ta-da! You have a bunch of continents. Okay, you don't want to destroy it, what do? Command on the Mac, Control on the PC, the Alt or Option key, Shift, and then E. This will create a new layer. You can also name this Continents Rendered. Then go up to the polygonal lasso tool. If you can't see it and only see the other one, it's up on the tools panel and it's under the regular lasso tool. Then select all of the continents that you want to preserve. Eliminate all of the edge continents because it will not work in the final product. A little tip, be sure to select a group of continents because Photoshop has it so that it looks like a Pangea when you select the continents correctly. So what you don't want to do is get to here and then decide to cut all the way through. That's not a good idea because they roughly look like they fit together. So select the ones that you want and then Command on the Mac, Control on the PC, Shift, and then I. This will invert your selection. You select, Be sure to unselect the previous layers so it's hidden, and voila. If you don't like it, go back to your previous continents layer and try it again, or you can undo. But this looks like a good set of continents, but it probably won't work that well as a system, so I'm going to spread them apart. Okay, you can select one, then hit the V key to move it. Be sure to not spill it over the edge, especially along the bottom. And then if you want to deselect, you hit the Command or Control on the PC, D key. A key to moving around the continents is to make sure that they're at the same latitude and roughly the same longitude relative to each other, so it looks more realistic. Then select Command or Control on the PC, Options or Alt, Shift, then E. This will render a new layer, and then Continents Final. This is all fine and good for a map, and you might think, oh, this is not what I was looking for. I mean, look at this. This is not very exciting. Okay, make some mountains. Go to the Layers panel and create a new layer. Name this layer Mountains. And then hit the D key to make sure that black is in the foreground and white is in the background. That's D as in David. And then go to Filter, Render, Clouds, then Filter, Render, Difference Clouds. Then Filter, Stylize, Find Edges, which will give you something like this. This is not very exciting, is it? No. So what you need to do, go up to Image, Adjustments, Levels. Slide the black slider, all the way over until it gets to the foot of the mountain over here. So on mine is about 220 value, and then hit OK. Then you go up to Filter, Render, Difference Clouds. Then you go up to Filter, Render, Difference Clouds again. This should give you something that looks like this. This is not very exciting either. But hang on, we're getting there. So, change your mode to darken, and voila, you have a map. It has mountains. It's really black in the background. It might work for a book, though the publishers probably would really like you to not have all that black in the background. So what do? How do you make this so it looks like it has color? Okay, let's add color. We're going to make water first. So make a new layer from your layers panel, and then name this new layer water. Go over to the color swatch, click on it once, and then make the blue 255. This should make the value 0000FF in hexadecimal. Hit OK. To fill this layer, hit the Option or the Alt key and backspace. This is not very exciting either. I know. Patience. Then change the mode where it says normal to difference. It looks a little bit better, but it's kind of underwater, and maybe you don't want that, or maybe you do. You can quit here. That is what you want, but we're going to move on. So we're going to make a new layer and call this layer land. This layer land is going to be green. So go over to your tool panel, click the blue swatch that you created, go over to the CMYK, make the values 100%, 0, 100. This is a nice green. Hit OK. We're going to do a little trick here. Change the fill to 0. We're back to water, I know. Double click the land layer. Go to gradient. And you're going to create a gradient. The stops are as follows. At 0, location 0, you want white. That is F on your keyboard. Okay. At location 15, you want 100, 0, 100, 0. Hit OK. At the location 30, you want a yellow color that looks tan. For mine, I set it to D18200 in hexadecimal. At 50, which is going to be your tropical zone, you want it to be the same values as before, which is 100 cm. The M is 0, and the Y is 100. And then K is 0. Hit OK. At the 70 mark, you want the color to be the same as before, so it looks consistent. Hit OK. And then at the 85 mark, you want the same color as before, which is 100, 0, 100. Same green color. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, and at the 100, location 100 mark, you want it to be white. This represents the icy polar cap at the other end. Hit OK. Make sure that the angle is at 90, the style is linear, and the blend mode is overlay. If you want to be fancy, you can also save this custom gradient as land, so you can use it in the future. Hit new. Hit OK. Oh, look, you have a bunch of deserts, and you have a tropical zone. Though it doesn't look like your planet's going to survive that long without a larger tropical zone. How is it going to produce all that ozone that you need? But let's worry about that later. Okay, so your land effect is there, your water effect is there, but it looks like your land is kind of underwater a little bit. How do you fix that? Turn off your land layer, the visibility of your land layer, turn off the visibility of your water layer, turn off the visibility of your mountain layer. Click your continents final, then go up to select, go to color range, hit the eyedropper tool, click the white area, hit OK. Click your water layer and make sure it is selected, and go down in your layers panel to the mask layer. Then you can turn the other two layers on. Isn't that wonderful? All your water has disappeared. Do not panic. What you want to do is Make sure that you are on the mask layer, which will be highlighted properly. Hit the Command key on the Mac or Control on the PC and hit I. This will invert your mask. So now your land shows and your water shows. This is good. If you wanted to make this into a 3D map, you could, because you have all of the information that you need to do so. But you're looking at this and going, oh, I wish that the rivers were blue. That is not a big deal. We can fix that. Click your land layer, hit for a new layer in your layers panel, and then go up to screen on the mode, and then we will fill the layer back with the blue that we had before. And the blue was 0000FF. Brilliant. Let's fill it, if you remember, with Alt or Option Delete. This looks terrible, I know. But don't forget to name your layer rivers. And then go down to the bottom and hit layer mask. Make the layer mask all black by hitting the Alt or the Option key and then delete. And then reverse the colors in your tool panel by hitting X. So on your map, if everything has worked out, there's going to be areas that look like they're kind of like rivers. If you see one there, you can use your brush, shrink the brush, and sketch out a river. Oh, look, it's turning blue. Remember, for the Hadley and Farrell zones, which is where your deserts are, there will be a reduced amount of rivers. So you don't have to sketch them all in. But you can see roughly that all of the rivers that you trace over will turn blue. This is good. Okay. You're looking at this map and saying, there's too many mountains. I don't want to have that many tectonic plates. This is not a volcano world for me. This does not work. That's fine. What you do is you go down to your mountains layer, you go to your brushes layer, you go up and make sure that it is soft. That means that the hardness is at 0 and the size is whatever it is. Make sure your opacity is at 50% and your flow is at 100. And then what you do is you go over and you make it gray. That's 50% brightness. The saturation should be at 0. It doesn't matter what your hue is, it's whatever it is. Then you can go to the places where you think that you want the topography to be a little bit lower or a little less harsh, and you can paint it in. So let's say this is a little valley and the desert with a lot of mountains. And this area here. And this little area here. So in this way, you can smooth out the map and do it gradually. Say you've gone this far and you're really pleased. You've gotten it exactly how you like it. Okay, you want to figure out where the equator is. How do you do that? create a new layer. You can turn on rulers by hitting Command or Control on the PC, R, and then drag a guide down, and it should kind of snap into place at the halfway point. This is good. So then make a line. You want to make a line to denote where the equator is. Oh, good. You got one. Then you can go back up to the move tool and remove your guide. So now you know where the equator is. So the next thing is to figure out how the currents are going to work between the continents. And the rule is counterclockwise for the southern part, and then clockwise for the northern part on Earth. Of course, it doesn't matter, but if you turned the map the other way, it would still look the same. So as long as they're in opposite directions of each other, you should be fine. So this will determine things like trade routes. So these people probably have an easier time getting to here than these people have getting to here. This will also help you determine where places that might hook around and create a Europe or whatever. So maybe there's a current that goes here, and then that might make it slightly temperate over there. Wouldn't that be fun? With this information and all of the layers that I've created, you can make it into a 3D planet so you can see where everything is in Photoshop. This might not work in GIMP, but if you fiddle around a little bit, you might be able to do it in Blender. Keep in mind, all mountains come from tectonic plates. So this means that any mountain ranges that you have, say through here, have to be created by tectonic plates. So when you are tracing out your tectonic plates, make sure that it covers those areas. If it doesn't cover those areas, then those mountains are shrinking by rule. So the higher the mountain, the more likely it's supported by a tectonic plate. So if you look over here, it looks like there is a really big mountain range. It is more likely that there is a tectonic plate colliding there and going in that direction than it is from these mountains, which look smaller. So keep that in mind when you are sketching out your tectonic plates, and you should be fine. Thank you for listening to my tutorial on how to create an Earth-like exoplanet in Photoshop 2023. I hope it will help. If you don't feel like going through all this process and following this tutorial, I do have an action set ready for you, which will work up Photoshop 2019 forward.